Hello, hello. Welcome to Purist Reacts. I'm Purist, and today we're going to be reacting to. I've seen this being recommended to me like for a while. It's every claimant to Rome ever. How Rome finally fell in 2011 by possible history. As I said, I've not really. I don't know how this I don't know this channel. I've just seen it recommended, so why does it look like Germany has wait, no, that's the Frankish Empire, never mind. Yeah, that's no, that's the Holy Roman Empire. I'm an idiot. Italy, France, the Ottomans, Russia, Greece, and the Byzantines. Byzantines, whatever. I wonder if they're gonna go like I wonder how super in depth they're gonna go. Cause I do not remember liking this. I swear I swear I haven't. Hmm. Anyway, as per usual, I will link these in the description down below if you want to check it out. Pay taxes to the, to the original uploader. I wouldn't have it any other way. Anyway, let's get into it.
In what year did the Roman Empire end? This is the question that was asked in my first ever university class. We all know that there are a variety of answers. 476, the fall of the Western Roman Empire, 1453, the
Yep.
fall of the Eastern Roman or Byzantine Empire, or what about 1806, the fall of the Holy Roman Empire?
I'm pretty sure no one ever counts the fall of the Holy Roman Empire. That's just me.
But some answers we did not think of as young students were 1945, the fall of Mussolini's Italy, or 1922, the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Or, my favorite of all, my professor claimed that he could, through some mental loops, extend the fall of the Roman Empire all the way through 2011. Why is it so difficult to come up with the correct answer? Or
2011. How? I mean, like one of my favorite theories connected to Rome. Yeah, this isn't connected to Rome really at all, but it's the history behind San Marino. Isn't that's technically a descendant of Republican Rome, and that it's still there. Also, weirdly enough, it's the only place in the world where fascism was actually elected lawfully, which is weird, weird thing.
actually, since there is no one true answer,
It didn't really last that long, but because um uh Mussolini, was it Mussolini or was it, I think it was Mussolini, like I don't know the details.
why are there so many different possible answers? Well, as many of you will know, many European nations have over the centuries claimed the title of Rome, as
I would probably argue the United States is probably one of these, just cuz you guys love the eagle motif and stuff. You guys have the bald eagle, you know. Just saying. You guys had that whole Manifest Destiny back in the day. I mean, yeah, maybe.
this map that shows all areas once part of a claimant to Rome should show. This video will be an exploration of all the entities across history that have at some point claimed the title of heirs of Rome, concluding with an examination
Oh, it's okay. I thought they were getting to do like all states that could claim some lineage. Well, not claim some lineage, that we have claimed some lineage through history to Rome. Because there's one that I think I may have said on the channel at some point in one of my CK3 playthroughs that I want to play as in that game I want to play as I think it's Powys in Wales, because there was like some like history going back that apparently some of the principalities of Wales actually claimed descendants from the old Roman province leaders. That will be a fun playthrough, I think. Anyway.
of the degrees to which each nation has a legitimate claim to Rome. To start off, we have, obviously, Rome itself. Rome began
Good old Rome.
as a small city-state, expanding itself into all of Italy, destroying Carthage, conquering the East, Gaul, and just generally taking charge of the Mediterranean.
Okay, I'm not, as a map maker enthusiast, I'm not that agreeable in. I mean, I know it's like technically true considering Roman purple, but like, well, imperial purple, but like, I always equate purple to be Byzantines. I don't know.
By just looking at this
It looks weird seeing the whole Roman Empire purple.
empire, it should be clear why others would want to claim the heritage of it. But in 395, something interesting happened. The Roman Empire split between an Eastern and a Western Roman Empire.
Yeah, the diarchy. Which weirdly lasted for a weirdly long time. Like 150 years.
The Roman Empire had done so in the past, but
There we go, Rome's red now.
this time it would be permanent. Which is why I picked this year as the founding of the Byzantine or Eastern Roman Empire. There
Yeah, true. I would too.
should be no debate as to the legitimacy of their claim to Rome. They were, from their very founding, explicitly one of two Roman empires.
Yes.
And despite their power base now being centered around Greek lands and Latin being supplanted for Greece in their domains, they called themselves Roman, they had the political system inherited from the Romans, and so the Byzantine Empire is 100% a legitimate successor state to Rome.
True.
Since I truly consider Byzantium a continuation of Rome, I could have not included it in this visual, but as will soon become clear, it will become very useful to separate the Eastern and Western Roman successor states. Meanwhile, the Western Roman Empire is often said to have fallen in 476, but it actually continued for a couple more years in Dalmatia under Julius Nepos, a former...
Yeah, that's true. Was it the Ostrogoths who claim it, or was that later? I think it might have been the Ostrogoths that pushed them out.
Western Roman Empire, who was recognized by the Byzantines as the successor to the Western Empire. Nepos, however, would be assassinated in 480, and with him we can say that any direct successor state to the Western Roman Empire completely died out. So it's now 480 BC, and Gaul is entirely occupied by the Germanics. Well, not in
Icky Germanics. Says the guy speaking a Germanic language. Shh. Stop.
Entirely. One small kingdom of indomitable Romans still holds out against the invaders.
Wait, I know something of this. I can't remember the name of the state itself, but I know this. Is it Neustria? Shit. Explain.
This kingdom was the Kingdom of Soissons, established
Soissons. Fuck. Dang it.
in 461 as a simple province of Rome. Upon the fall of the Western Empire, Soissons continued as a practically independent kingdom. They never claimed to be the Roman Empire, but their fall marks the collapse of the Western Roman Empire fully. Technically, there was also the Mauro Roman Empire in North Africa, but they were an independent kingdom which didn't necessarily claim to be a part of Rome anymore, they were just a kingdom ruled by Romans. But just
Huh.
because the Western Roman Empire was now gone, that doesn't mean that its legacy is. The continuation of the Roman Empire in the West follows the line of the papacy. I do not consider the papacy itself as a successor to the
Okay, I felt for sure that guy was giving us the finger. Although to be honest, one of my first playthroughs of Victoria 3 was trying to unite Italy under the Pope. So it's one of my favorite theories, but I'm not sure. I mean, technically is, but it it's weird.
Roman Empire, although you could, but they are
Kind
the
of.
crucial middleman between the Roman Empire and the first true Western successor empire, Francia. The Frankish Empire came into existence in 800 with the crowning of Charlemagne to the position of the Roman Emperor by the Pope. This is the first lineage to Rome that can be contested. The Pope in 800 essentially said, "We don't recognize the Byzantine Empire as Rome anymore." The reason the Pope did this were various. First off, Charlemagne had conquered a big chunk of the former Western Roman Empire.
Yeah, it's about the optics, I think. I mean, that, yeah.
Second, Charlemagne had protected the Pope, and as such, they were good buds.
Yeah.
Third, by crowning Charlemagne, the popes established the precedent that the popes had the authority to depose and crown emperors. And finally, fourth, the Byzantines had coronated Empress Irene, and the Pope did not recognize the right of women to rule the Roman Empire. As such, the title of
Ah, yes, good old racism. I mean, sexism.
Roman emperorship was, in the eyes of the Pope, vacant, meaning that Charlemagne could fill the spot. This Frankian claim to the Roman
It's
heritage
just
depends
like, you're technically the Roman Empire, but you're not a dude. And this other guy's conquered much of the Western Roman Empire, so I'm giving the crown over to him. Suck it.
pretty much fully on whether you consider the Pope to have the authority to crown emperors. If you
Meh.
don't, the entire rest of this Western tree can be considered illegitimate. This Frankian claim to emperorship temporarily died
As I've said, I kind of prefer like the papacy, just because it's like intriguing and kind of funny.
out in 888, as Charlemagne's successors had
And also because I don't like the Holy Roman Empire.
seen the empire divided and mostly falling. But in 962, this Frankian claim was restored, as Otto
Yeah.
I was crowned by the Pope, reviving a Western Roman Empire. This claim to Rome would be the same as that of the Frankians, relying on the authority of the Pope to decide who can be emperor. This new empire would center around the German lands and become known as the Holy Roman Empire. Insert Voltaire quote here.
Yeah. That feeling when you're an influential Enlightenment thinker, but for all you're known for is the quip. Yeah. Voltaire. He was the one who said, the Holy Roman Empire is not holy, nor Roman, nor an empire. He was the one who said it. Yeah.
This Holy Roman Empire would last as the uncontested Roman Empire, at least in the West, until 1804. In 1806, Francis II, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, would dissolve it. Why would he do this? Because in 1806, the empire was facing a crisis, as Napoleon had been rampaging across Europe, setting up this Confederation of the Rhine within the Holy Roman Empire. This showed that the entire institution was useless now, as the official vassals of the emperor bore allegiance to Napoleon, and
Yeah.
as such, the empire
The
was
allegiance
dissolved.
to another power.
But the
yeah.
Napoleonic power struggles leading to the fall of the Holy Roman Empire would also lead to the creation of two more Romes. The first is Napoleon's Empire of France.
Yeah. I suppose he is the one who conquered the most, right? Like, even more than Charlemagne's empire. If we count his vassals of Spain, did he have Portugal? Put on a maybe. Like, and the stuff he, owned outright, which was like Yeah, basically all of the former Holy Roman Empire, as well as parts of Poland, and um, yeah, he conquered half of Italy, like down to Naples or something, and then he had a vassal state for the rest of it, I think. So he did conquer the most of what would usually be the Roman Empire, but and yeah,
Napoleon, in a bid for more European recognition, crowned himself the Emperor of France in 1804, temporarily directly competing with the Holy
yeah. Okay, he wasn't part of Portugal. It was just like France, and he conquered. Yeah, minus the Pepsi, he did have the other whole half of. I remember, and I thought he did have parts of Poland as well as some Confederation of the Rhine. Wait, did he have Denmark as well, or am I? Wait,
Roman Empire as Western Europe's prime empire. As such, Napoleon's Western Roman Empire is not a descendant of the Holy Roman Empire, instead claiming direct lineage from the Frankish Empire.
yeah, it's more like a successor to Charlemagne's empire. Yeah,
This French Empire is pretty doubtful as to whether or not they are actually a Roman successor state, as Napoleon did not directly claim the Roman emperorship, instead referring back to the emperorship of Charlemagne and the
yeah. He considered himself a successor to Charlemagne instead of Rome. Yeah.
Franks, thereby making Napoleonic France only an indirect Roman successor state. This Empire of France first lasted from 1804 until 1815 under Napoleon I, and after his defeat it was abolished. In 1852, however, Napoleon III would crown himself as Emperor of France again, reviving the title until 1870,
But he came back.
where after an embarrassing loss to Prussia, he too abdicated, and the French claim to Rome died out. Then there is the conclusion to the line of the Western Roman Empire. Francis II, the final emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, had also created a new empire in 1804 in response to
Austria-Hungary.
Napoleon elevating himself to the title of emperor. Francis II elevated himself to the title of Austrian emperor. This meant that very temporarily there were three Western Roman empires.
Well, that's not at all confusing.
France, Austria, and the Holy Roman Empire. Although the Holy Roman Empire was considered the most prestigious out of these three. But in 1806, with the
Yeah, probably just due to the fact of it being holy. The Pope crowned it's the most legitimate.
abdication of Francis II as the Holy Roman Emperor, the Holy Roman Empire was now gone. Because Francis II ruled both the Austrian and Holy Roman Empires, the Austrian Empire and later the Austro-Hungarian Empires can be considered successor states to the Holy Roman Empire and thus to Rome. This claim can be seen as pretty shaky, however, as the new Austrian Empire held very few lands which could be considered Roman, their emperors weren't crowned by the Pope anymore, and the idea of being the Roman Empire wasn't considered that important anymore in Western Europe at the time.
Yeah, fell out of fashion a little bit.
This Austrian Empire would last all the way from 1804 until 1918, when the empire started unraveling thanks to World War I. Its final emperor, Karl I, would informally abdicate in 1918, stepping away from the politics of the nation, with the Austrians then abolishing their empire in favor of a republic. It is also through Karl that we find the mysterious "Rome ended in 2011" comment I alluded to at the start of this video. Because this man called Otto was born in 1912, and his father Karl ascended the throne in 1915. This means that Otto was recognized as the heir to the Austrian Empire at some point, and upon his passing in 2011, we can say that the last direct, legitimate claimant to any Roman Empire fell away. Obviously,
Dude, he lived to 2011? Fuck. Wow.
it's a shaky claim, and nobody will realistically say that the Roman Empire ended in 2011, but it was a very good way to pique the interest of a group of young history students.
Yeah.
But with the abdication of Karl, we can say that the Western,
I mean, myself, I probably would have done with the papacy or San Marino if I was in that position.
papal, Frankish, whichever name you prefer, line of Roman succession died out. We will now move east and look at what the other side of the Mediterranean has to offer. And, as a spoiler, the Roman succession tree in the east looks completely different to that of the west.
Yeah, very messy. Now, see if I can remember, I can predict this. Russia did at some point, the Sultanate of Rome did, the Ottoman Empire. Well, most of these are on the thumbnail, so. Oh. I can't think of any more. Shit.
As all claimants directly relate to the Byzantines with no middlemen like in the West. To start with the most meaningful claim, we have the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah,
The Ottomans
who
had slowly
conquered
started their rise to power from Anatolia,
1443.
eventually in
1453.
1453 managing to capture the city of Constantinople. With this capture, the Ottomans would officially start to claim the title of the
Big boy onion hat, Suleiman.
Roman Empire. And in my eyes, this claim is pretty fair. They had conquered the remnants of the most legitimate Roman successor state, capturing what was arguably the capital of the Roman Empire for longer than Rome itself, and at their greatest extent, they even forced the Holy Roman Emperor to not refer to their own claim to Rome during communication with the Ottomans. So in my eyes, the Ottomans have a damn good claim to the title of Emperor, which would then come to an end in 1922 as the Ottomans collapsed in favor of a Turkish republic. The second claim, originating in 1453, is the Russian or Muscovite one.
Yeah.
The Byzantines followed a form of Christianity called Greek Orthodoxy, and they had centuries ago converted the Rus to their religion. The Kievan.
This is another playthrough that I want to do in CK3. From the very start of when CK3 actually released, I wanted to make the Kievan Rus a valid successor state to Russia, to make Russia out of it. From Rurik. What's his name? Rurik? Dang it. Yeah.
Rus, the predecessor to the later East Slavic nations, had a deep relationship with the Byzantines. When Constantinople fell, this led to Muscovy claiming the primacy over the Orthodox faith, thereby shaping Moscow into the Third Rome, with the first Rome obviously being Rome and the second one being Constantinople.
Yeah.
Centuries later, this Russian claim would still remain relevant, as Russia still dreams of reclaiming Constantinople, the former seat of the Byzantines.
I wonder if that's still true now. If that's like an actual plan that they have.
So this leaves two claims originating from the fall of Constantinople, standing in ideological opposition to each other. The Ottomans have the right of conquest, as they are the ones who have conquered the remnants of the Roman Empire, and as such, can claim to now be the Roman Empire. This makes sense. The Russian claim, though, is more based on heritage, having
and also the fact that they like literally bought the Russian Orthodox, not Russian Orthodox, the Orthodox faith down into Byzantium.
been influenced by the Byzantines since the founding of the Eastern Slavic nation, the Russians have a religious, cultural, and ideological claim to be the continuation of the Byzantine Empire, which I also consider a fair claim, as should be expected by now.
Yeah, it's a bit less, in my opinion, than the Ottoman Roman Right Conquest one, but whatever. Also, I feel surprised that he hasn't mentioned the Sultanate of Rum. I don't know.
The Russian claim ends in 1917 as a result of World War I, with the abdication of the Tsar and the Soviets taking charge in the nation. This gives World War I the biggest Roman Empire kill count, as 3, and depending on your point of view, even technically 4 Roman successor states saw their demise as a consequence of this war. So World War I is the event that led to the most Roman successor states ending. Time to learn of the event that led to the creation of the most Roman successor states, the Fourth Crusade. The Catholics had been crusading to the Holy Land for a while now, sometimes almost managing to not fail. During the Fourth Crusade though, they failed very, very hard.
Well, they didn't even really fail, they just got distracted. I mean, I don't remember how it happened, but like someone just basically told them, what if there's like a whole crap load of money in like Constantinople, right? Like it's right there. And it's just they're all just like, you're right.
Since instead of reaching the Holy Land, the Crusaders, which took a quick stop in Constantinople, got involved in local conflicts over succession, accidentally raiding Constantinople and temporarily ending the Byzantine Empire.
Accidentally? What?
From this, 4 important successor states would emerge. The first is the Latin Empire. This was the empire you see here in control over Constantinople itself, thereby claiming the mantle of the Byzantines by right of conquest. And as a state set up by the Crusaders, it was hoped that this Latin Empire could function as the new Catholic Eastern Roman Empire next to the Holy Roman Empire in the west. This empire, however, was pretty weak, soon almost losing Constantinople again, and while this was averted, the Latin Empire was in a state of decline ever since its founding. Their claim to Rome was, similarly to the Ottomans, based on conquest, but considering their weaknesses and the other claimants, I consider this Latin claim significantly weaker.
Yeah, there was a lot. There's like...
weaker. In 1261, this Latin Empire would fall again to our next Roman successor state, which is the Empire of Nicaea.
Oh, I was right. It was Nicaea.
Upon the fall of the Byzantine Empire, 3 new successor states were set up by Byzantine nobles, with the most important of which soon proving to be Nicaea. While I would say that in 1204 the Nicaean claim to Rome was pretty weak, or at least no stronger than the other successor states, Nicaea would be the one to retake Constantinople and claim the mantle of the Byzantine Empire again. This Nicaean claim to Rome, therefore, becomes the same as the Byzantine one, as the successors of this Nicaean Empire would be the ones to lead Byzantium in its final centuries of demise, ruling until 1453. The next successor state is Trebizond, which is the pink empire you see on the map here. A Byzantine successor state like Nicaea, but what gives Trebizond more legitimacy is that upon the fall of the Byzantine Empire to the Crusaders, Trebizond was the one that kept the formerly ruling Komnenos dynasty. This gives Trebizond the strongest claim to Byzantium in 1204. But, as the Nicaean wing managed to restore Byzantium, Trebizond officially gave up their claim to Rome. Trebizond would, however, slightly outlast their Nicaean counterparts, as with the fall of Constantinople, the Nicaean wing died out, while Trebizond held out for 8 more years, after which they too were conquered by the Ottomans. The final 4th Crusader breakaway state is Epirus, the final, and frankly, least relevant of the successor states. Their claim to even being an empire died out in 1242, and they were soon vassalized and carved up by other powers, thereby being by far the least successful Byzantine successor states, but since it was the same 1204 event that spawned them, they too fit in this category. And that concludes the 2 big events spawning Byzantine successor states, the 4th Crusade and the fall of Constantinople. We have 4 more Byzantine successors to discuss, but unlike the former, there are no broader categories which we can use to connect these to each other. The first is the Sultanate of Rum.
I was gonna talk about the Sultanate of Rum. Nice.
This Sultanate of Rum was founded in 1077, and as you may have guessed, Rum is the Turkish version of Rome, and was explicitly meant to refer to the fact that Rum tried to supplant the Byzantines as the Eastern Roman Empire. This Sultanate of Rum was part of a Turkish invasion of Anatolia, conquering large part of the region. Thanks to their geographic location, the Rum were right in the middle of several crusading armies, weakening the state, eventually leading to them being overrun and vassalized by the Mongols and their successor states. Again, like the Ottomans, they were Rome by right of conquest, but unlike the Ottomans, they failed to take Constantinople, and Byzantium still existed, so their claim to Rome is much weaker. Then we have two times where a king of another realm just randomly claimed the title of Emperor of the Romans in direct opposition to the Byzantines. The first of these was Bulgaria, as the Bulgarians claimed the title of Emperor and Autocrat of all Bulgarians and Romans in 913, thereby challenging the Byzantine claim to the Roman Empire. After more than a decade of fighting between Bulgaria and Byzantium, the Bulgarian emperor settled for being called the Emperor of the Bulgarians in 1924, thereby dropping his claim to
Epic Rome speedrun 11 years world record.
Rome and earning the title of arguably the shortest lived claim to Rome, as it only lasted about 11 years.
Oh yeah.
A similar story happened in 1355 when the Serbian king declared himself emperor. He did not, however, declare himself Emperor of the Romans yet. This would happen with the ascension of his son, who would style himself the Emperor of Serbs and Romans until his death in 1371. Technically, the title survived until 1373 by his half-brothers, but they were mostly irrelevant. This entire claim was pretty much baseless, as the Byzantine Empire was still there, and Serbia had done little to earn the name of Rome. Then finally, to complete the Byzantine parts of the Roman family tree, we have Greece. Greece never technically or fully claimed Roman or Byzantine emperorship, but seeing as the Byzantine Empire ever since its founding was centered around Greece, there were undoubtedly links between the Greeks and the Byzantines.
I'm not sure about that. I'm much more rather the Greeks. The modern Greeks are just, they're not a successor state.
Furthermore, ever since Greece achieved independence, there was a thing called the Megali idea, where Greece was supposed to reclaim Constantinople from the Ottoman Empire, potentially turning it into the Greek capital, while also reclaiming Asia Minor. This Megali idea was based on Greek nationalism, as it was the era of nationalism, but these claims were, in some circles, also based on the idea that Greece should in some form revive Byzantium. This Greek claim to Rome is informal, coming through the idea that they are the cultural and religious continuation of Byzantium. In terms of dates for this Greek Rome, I have put 1829, their date of independence, as a start, and as the end date I have decided on 1922. This was the year where the Greco-Turkish War ended, and the Greeks failed to realize the Megali idea. The cultural heritage obviously still remained, but the idea of Greece being able to reclaim Constantinople and build a new Byzantium was now mostly gone. In a similar vein to Greece, we have one more claimant to the Roman Empire who had a claim to Rome in a more nationalistic than dynastic sense. This one doesn't fit either the papal Western Roman claim nor the Byzantine Eastern Empire claim. As you may have guessed, this final claimant is Italy. Italy, despite being a Western European state, can follow their claim to being Rome from the Pope or any other of the Western Roman successor empires. By virtue of their location, Italy claims direct descendants from the Roman Empire itself. For the sake of this video, I have put the date for this claim at 1861 with the creation of the Italian kingdom, but even before Italian unification, the idea that Italians were the descendants of Romans was, logically, already there. The unification of the kingdom, however, made this more explicit. The choice of Rome as a capital was not because Rome was the best city in Italy, it wasn't, but Rome could evoke the prestige and historical imagery of the Roman Empire in a way that no other Italian city could. The Italians funded archaeology and research into their Roman past, displaying it in full glory. Rome was also a prominent aspect of Italy's foreign policy, with the most direct example being the Italians referencing the Roman Scipio Africanus while justifying the Italian invasion of Libya. This imagery of Rome as an expansionist power is then continued in Mussolini's Italy, which I display separately here, as the imagery and claim to Rome somewhat changes with Mussolini, but this is very much a continuation of the Kingdom of Italy. Mussolini doubled down on the Roman Italy idea, using it extensively in their propaganda campaigns, and most well known, in their territorial ambitions around the Mediterranean, planning to create a new Roman Empire. Both of these Italian claims to Rome can be argued to have died down in 1945 with the fall of Mussolini and the start of the Italian Republic. This new Italian Republic still to this very day recognizes their Roman heritage, but it's significantly more indirect. So I will draw the line here at 1945. With that, I think I have mapped most of the Roman successor states. There may have been a couple of insignificant ones I missed, but all the relevant ones should be here. As you can see, I have included the year in which I consider a claim somewhat valid here, so let's roughly run down how long each successor state claimed to be Rome. Starting from the bottom, we have the pathetic claims of the Bulgarians and Serbians, who managed 11 and 16 years of being Rome respectively. Next up is Napoleonic France, which only managed a combined 29 years. The Latin Empire managing a neat 57 years. The most recent Roman successor state, Italy, managing a total of 84 years. Just barely beating out the Italians is the Byzantine, less successful Western counterpart.
Dude, I can't believe Italy technically lasted only 1 year less than the actual Western Rome did. It's kind of wild.
Clocking in about 85 years. Francia lasted for 88 years, not counting the Holy Roman Empire. Greece may be the most difficult one to give dates to, but I went with a total of 93 years.
Huh.
Then the first empire that managed more than a century is Austria, clocking in at 114 years. We then have a big jump up with the Room,
144 years,
who lasted, arguably, 231 years. We then have the twin successor states of Trebizond and Nicaea. Trebizond just barely manages to win with 257 years, while Nicaea, including their reformed Byzantium, manages 249 years. We're then coming into the...
Yeah, I kind of forget that, like, Nicaea is technically, like, did technically take over as Byzantium after the Fourth Crusade. And that Byzantium technically ended... Yeah, technically in, what was it? I forget.
Territory of the actual large empires. Russia and the Ottomans have a very close race, as they both find their claim in 1453 and they both fall as a result of World War I. The Ottomans just barely managed to win though, with 469 years against the Russian 464. We then find the most prominent Western successor state, the Holy Roman Empire, at a whopping 844 years. Then there is the final and most successful Roman successor state, which managed to last over a millennia, Byzantium, at 1058 years. Zooming out, we find the ancient Roman Empire, which I classified from 753 BC until 472, when the Western Roman Empire fell and the center of the empire permanently moves to Greece. This empire, Rome proper, lasted for 1229 years in total, although, arguably, it was only an empire for about 450 years of this. Then finally, we have the Roman Empire as a totality, meaning including all Roman successor state, which again starts at the founding of the city in 753 BC, lasting all the way to 1945 with the fall of Mussolini's Italy. This total empire lasted for a total of 2698 years.
Jesus.
Here is the final image, showing roughly my categorization of what is and isn't Rome, with the three categories of definitely Rome, good claim to Rome, and not Rome, with the further down you are, the more you are not Rome. Since I have already mentioned all of these throughout the video, I will not elaborate on these. To conclude this video, here is my graphic again, with an explanation as to what the color of each of the arrows means. Let me know if you agreed with my assessments in this video, and tell me what I missed in the comments. With that, I will thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing and leaving a like and a comment to help out against the algorithm. A special thanks to Lord Atlantean, Yoshi, Jonathan White.
Alright. There were a few Roman successor status I would have liked to have delved into, because some of them are pretty interesting. Like, technically, San Marino is one. Also, the claimed ones in Wales. That's also another one. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. And check out the original video, because, it's only polite, right? Anyway, hope you enjoyed. I've been Purist, signing off.